Hey, I'm Sven Masterson, one of the co-founders and principal mentors in the Mentoring Men community. And in this video, I want to talk to you about letting go, and specifically letting go when you're in the midst of a crisis of some kind, especially a relational or romantic crisis, where the woman you're in a relationship with has just told you she wants space, she's pondering separation or divorce, and your mind is racing a mile a minute. You're waking up at 3:30 in the morning wondering what's going to happen next. Am I going to lose everything? Am I going to stop being able to see the kids? And men just find this incredibly overwhelming. All of the what ifs, just the places their mind take them. And it's a characteristic of our anxious mind that anxiety provokes us to think we need to do something. There's a tremendous do energy with anxiety. Quick, act fast, control the outcome, keep that from happening. And believe it or not, that anxiety, if you follow that doing energy, it gets really, really certain that you create more problems. It reminds me a little bit of when I was a young father. I have 6 children. I've been a father for 26 years. And when my first son was born, I was a tremendously anxious man and a tremendously anxious father. And our oldest son had a little bit of breathing challenges right at birth, and that just put me into a major panicky state as a new father. And so I remember I would have this deep fear and anxiety and dread that maybe he'd stop breathing. And so I'd oftentimes in the beginning go in his room and I would be like, I don't know if he's breathing, and I would be panicky and I would shake him a little bit. And when I would shake him a little bit to see if he was breathing and alive, naturally he would wake up. And then I would do that enough sometimes that he wouldn't sleep so well. And because he wouldn't sleep, his immune system would be struggling and he would get illnesses like RSV or colds and things. And so I was actually, by my anxiety, bringing things into his life that offered more chance that I would experience what I didn't want. I didn't want an unhealthy son. But because I was anxiously fiddling with things, believing that I could somehow control those things so that didn't happen, I was headed down a trajectory that ultimately would have been more likely to produce some of those very scenarios I dreaded. Now, I figured that out ultimately. That's the benefit of having a lot of children. You get a little bit better with each one. And I learned to temper that anxiety over time. I learned to understand that anxiety is your brain projecting what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it is doing that, predicting and projecting based on your past understanding. So if you're an anxious person, your brain is using the anxiety of the past and predicting the future as though it's going to be the same way. Now, when you're in a relationship crisis, a man's head is just filled with these things that could happen, doom and gloom and catastrophe. And so a man begins to catastrophize quite a bit. And so he cannot imagine things working out. And he can't find rest. And unfortunately, this compels a man to obsess even more. And so a lot of times when we meet men, we call these men hair on fire. They are just consumed with anxiety and obsessive focus on what their partner is doing and on the relationship. And these men often want to know, like, how do I make this work? She won't communicate with me. And they have this anxiety that she's not talking. How could I possibly turn this around if I can't do this? I can't do this. I can't talk to her. She won't talk. She won't look at me. She's not answering my phone call. She's not answering my text. She's not here. And when we meet them and tell them, brother, you have to settle down. This is not actually fixed by fiddling with it. It's fixed by taking your obsessive, anxious focus off of her. Well, these men can't believe that. They don't know how to do that. In fact, it's so bad that the way a man's anxiety can be in this moment, that when we tell him you have got to stop looking at what she is doing and you have to turn that focus inward, those men think we are telling them to stop hoping and to start resigning. And they're not the same thing. But see, that's the power of obsession and anxiety, is that when you let go of it, it feels like death. But that's just the belief that it's your brain's obsessive, anxious focus on something that is making it work to begin with. Now, ironically, a little bit maybe paradoxically, it's oftentimes that very energy that is making a relationship fail. Because a man has grown accustomed to the idea that it's anxious pursuit, it's anxious manipulating, it's anxious shaking the baby in the middle of the night that keeps the relationship from dying. And what he doesn't realize is for years he has been cultivating a dying relationship because he's been trying to build the relationship on a foundation of fear and anxiety and ultimately insecurity. This man doesn't actually realize that the whole foundation of his life is insecurity. And so when he gets to this point, it's like, oh no, and men tell us all the time, this is exactly what I'd always feared, exactly what I have dreaded all my life. They don't realize that they've been cultivating this kind of outcome for years by being an anxious man who's pursuing a person, a partner, not from love, not for connection, but out of an insecure anxiety, desire to control his future. And you know what? One of the first things we have to learn as a man is that no one controls the future. There's not a human being on earth that has certainty about how their future unfolds. Not a married or unmarried man on the planet knows with certainty that their wife will always be true. We all like to think that. We all have a reasonable expectation. But the reality is no one knows. That's just part of life. Part of life is that it comes with uncertainty. And you know, that's not really that bad when we know ourselves to be capable of showing up in an uncertain future and being okay. And this is really what's going on in this man's life. The men we talk to, the men asking these questions, is they don't know already that they're okay. And so when they look into the unknown future, they don't look okay there either. And this gives birth to this unending anxiety about how things go. So we encourage men like this when we meet them to turn that focus away from her. It looks really counterintuitive to them. They just can't believe it. In fact, they struggle to do so because they feel like to do so is to make the relationship die. When we tell them, let go of the pressure, let go of expectations, to them, we might as well be saying just to kill it now. But we're not. We're saying it doesn't stay alive by your anxious worry and attention. In fact, it dies the more you anxiously worry and attend to it. Instead, use that energy to solve the deeper, true issue. What is that? It's the insecurity that is feeding all of that anxiety. And so that's what we work with men, is we help them uncover and understand why they are so desperate for these things to work out. They don't realize that they've been living oftentimes in decades of an anxious, insecure mind that needs these things to work out, because if they don't work out, they don't see themselves as being okay. And so that's really where the work of men's work is. This is looking inside, attending to yourself, attending to your own heart, attending to your own person, your own shame, fear, anxiety, insecurity, and uncertainty. When men do that, they have the best possible prospects for creating the life and relationship they want. And men that try to go forward into the future and skip that step by controlling outcomes generally always get the result in the relationship, and otherwise that's exactly what they don't want. And I know how hard that is. I know it's hard to turn your focus off of other people and to let it go. I know it feels like resignation. I know it feels like it's going to die, but you have to trust us. It's not. You're going to be okay. But you absolutely will not live an experience of being okay as long as you look at her, as long as you look at the relationship. In fact, we talk to a lot of men. I would say I personally talk to probably 325 men a year. And it's a very solid pattern that if a man will turn his gaze towards himself and off of her, the chances of him turning around a failing relationship are probably in the 90 percentile. A man that will not stop looking at her, the chances of him losing that relationship are probably like in the 98th percentile. Those men tend to get exactly the calamitous catastrophe that they have not stopped imagining the whole time. And I want that to be a sober warning to you, because you have much more power than you think in how these things turn out. But it's not expressed by obsessive, compulsive, anxious worry. It happens actually by turning that same energy and focus on yourself, becoming the best, most calm and confident and peaceful and whole version of yourself that you can. And brother, that's what you need to do. That's where the work is in this work. If you don't know how to be that man, if you don't know how to address fear and shame and anxiety and insecurity and uncertainty, we would love to talk to you. In fact, we have an entire course meant for men who are in this exact spot, men who are facing a failing marriage. We call it the failing marriage recovery plan. It's included in the membership of our men's community, Mentoring Men, which is $25 a month. And we also have other great courses for men that relate to these topics, and they're all baked in. Now, how can you participate? Well, below, I want you to look in the description of this video. You will see a couple links. The first link you'll see is a link where you can connect with myself for a one-on-one session, complimentary, no sales pitch. We'll talk about what's going on with you. You can click that link below to set that up. And if you go further down, you'll see another link about how to sign up for our community. It comes with a 7-day free trial. You can just check out what we have to offer there. You could come in. You could probably take the bulk of the failing marriage recovery plan within that 7 days. There's about 60 plus videos that are all about these subjects in great depth. Again, no sales pitch, just a community where you can be a part, you can receive support, you could talk to men on the same journey you're on, and have a little bit deeper access to myself and the other mentors in our community, and that link is below. And with that, I wish you a good day. I wish you the best in turning your focus off of anxious, catastrophizing outcomes and turning it towards yourself. Do that, and I know you'll be okay. I'll see you soon. Take care.